pose with the bands. Pose with the pose with the pose with the bands. Pose with the pose with the pose with the bands. Pose with the bands. Pose with the bands.
Today, I will be talking about inflation and the factors that influence Malaysia's inflation rate in January 25. Firstly, what is inflation? Inflation is the general increase in the prices of goods and services over time. In other words, it means that the value of money decreases. We need more money to buy the same amount of good as before. For an example, based on the Astro Awani video, Malaysia's inflation rate for January 2025 was reported at 1.7% with the consumer price index CPI rising to 133.6% compared to 131.4% in the same month and year. Now we are moving to the factors of inflation. First is demand pull inflation. It happens when the demand for goods and services increases faster than the supply. During festive seasons such as Ramadan and Shawwal in Malaysia, consumer spending usually rises sharply. People buy more food, clothing, decorations and gifts to prepare for the celebrations. At the same time, many families travel back to their hometowns, which increase the demand for transportation, fuel and accommodation services. However, the supply of these goods and services cannot increase immediately, leading to the shortages and higher prices. For an example, during Ramadan, the prices of chicken, beef and cooking oil often rise because sellers know that consumers will continue to buy them even at a higher price.
Malaysia, moderate inflation of about 1 to 3% means price increase slowly. When the government maintains subsidies and price control, inflation stays stable and people purchasing power remains steady. For example, petrol RON 95, cooking oil and LPG gas are subsidy that helps keep price from rising too much. However, since Malaysia imports many food items, global price changes and a weak ringgit can make imported goods more expensive. When food prices go up due to imports, Malaysians have to spend more for the same goods. This reduces purchasing power, especially for low and middle income households. If subsidies are reduced or trades raise price unfairly, consumers can buy fewer goods with the same income. So even moderate inflation can reduce purchasing power if income doesn't rise at the same rate. These graphs show when Malaysia experiences moderate inflation, the aggregate supply AS1 to AS2 decrease slightly due to higher costs and aggregate demand, which is AD1 to AD2, rises a bit from customer spending. This makes the price level increase from P to P1 to P2, showing inflation, while output changes slightly Y1 to Y2. As a result, consumers' purchasing power falls a little, means they can buy fewer goods with the same income.
Now, in screen 3, we move on to a concept that directly affects every consumer's daily life, which is understanding the purchasing power, where we have the definition, the enemy, the result, and the measure. Let's check the definition first. For the definition understanding purchasing power, let me tell you what it is. It is CHOR. Purchasing power is the real value of your money. It's answer one simple question, which is how much can your 100 ringgit actually buy a product or things. It is the quantity of the good and your service can acquire with a specific amount of currency at a given time. In this slide, let's talk about point 2 and point 3, which is the enemy and the result of implications impact. The most crucial relationship to understand is that inflation is the primary enemy of purchasing power. Now, let's think of this way. Last year, you have 50 ringgit in your pocket. That could buy you 2 items or more than that. But this year, due to the price increase, your same 50 ringgit can only buy one of those items or less than that. Your money is the same, but its power to purchase has decreased. This is the erosion of purchasing power. Conventionally, if price were to drop, a rare event called deflation, your purchasing power will go up. As you can see in this slide, I add an example of purchasing power. For example, I add groceries that we can buy for 50 ringgit in 2024 in a box, but in 2025, due to the price increase, we can only buy less product than last year. In this last slide, let's talk about the point 4, which is measure how to be tracked. To keep track of the change, economists use a tool called the Consumer Price Index or CPI. The CPI measures the average change in the price of a standard basket of goods over time. When you hear the CPI is rising, you know that the cost of living is increasing, and therefore people's purchasing power is decreasing. In summary, maintaining a stable economy is all about protecting this purchasing power, which is directly translated to the standard of living for the rakyat, which is people. We will see how poorly markets attempt to control this in the later scene.
Here we have the impacts of inflation on purchasing power. The first one is decrease in real income. The second one is cost of living increases. The third one is savings value declines. And the last one is wage price gap. The first impact is decrease in real income. When inflation rises, the pricing power of money decreases. It means person's income buys fewer goods and services than before. Even if nominal income, like money earned, stays the same, its real value drops. For example, if your monthly salary is around 3,000 ringgit and inflation rises from 2% to 6%, your income can no longer buy the same amount of groceries, fuel, or clothes as before. The second impact is cost of living increases. Inflation leads to higher prices for everyday items such as food, transportation, rent, and healthcare. For example, a family that spends 500 ringgit a month on groceries may now need 600 ringgit for the same items due to rising of food prices. The next impact is savings value declines. If inflation is higher than the interest rate earned on savings, the real value of money in the bank decreases over time. This discourages people from saving. For example, if your saving earn 2% interest annually but inflation is 5%, the real value of your savings actually drops by 3%. Last but not least, the fourth impact is reduced consumer spending. When inflation reduces purchasing power, consumers buy less. This declines the demand and can slow down the economic growth and affect business sales. For example, like if fuel prices rise sharply, people may drive less or postpone buying new vehicles, electronics, reducing car sales, and affecting related industries.
In conclusion, based on the Astro Awani report, Malaysia's inflation rate for the year 2025 remains moderate around 1.4%, although its rate is relatively stable compared to previous year. Even moderate inflation still affects the daily lives of Malaysian consumers. When price of essential goods such as food, petrol and housing slowly increase, the purchasing power of consumer decreases. This means that people can buy fewer items with the same amount of money, leading to a higher cost of living, especially among middle and lower income households. To address this issue, the Malaysian government uses fiscal policy as one of its main tools to control inflation and maintain economic balance. Through fiscal policy, the government manages public spending, taxation, and subsidies effectively to regulate overall demand in the economy. For example, providing targeted subsidies for essential items such as fuel, cooking oil, and rice can help stabilize prices and reduce financial pressure on the rakyat. Furthermore, by maintaining responsible government spending and avoiding excessive budget deficits, Malaysia can prevent inflation from using uncontrollably. Fiscal discipline ensures that public funds are used effectively while supporting sectors that contribute to long-term economic growth. Overall, fiscal policy plays a vital role in maintaining price stability, ensuring economic sustainability, and protecting the welfare of citizens. By managing inflation wisely, the government not only keeps the economy stable but also strengthens the purchasing power of Malaysians in the long run.